Ladies and gentlemen, control is not inherently negative. In fact, it can be empowering. We structure our days, plan our goals, organize our time, all in pursuit of mastery over chaos. In youth and middle age, control gives us the illusion of stability. We cling to it like a raft in turbulent water. But what begins as a tool for order slowly mutates into a burden when life begins to shift in ways we can no longer dictate. As people grow older, the nature of change itself becomes threatening. The body doesn't move the same. Loved ones grow distant or pass on. Technology outpaces understanding. Roles once held, provider, protector, leader, fade into the past. And for someone who has spent decades believing their worth is rooted in their ability to control outcomes, this loss feels like an erosion of self. The need to control becomes unconscious. It hides beneath phrases like "things used to be better" or "I just want it done my way." What they are really saying is, "I'm afraid of losing what I once knew," and that fear hardens into resistance. The mind becomes rigid, the heart grows guarded, and in this constant mental tightening, the energy that once flowed freely now becomes trapped. Control demands effort. It is a contract of constant vigilance. You have to monitor, correct, adjust. You stay alert not because you are present, but because you are afraid, and fear, even when disguised as perfectionism or discipline, drains the life force from within. That's why many older individuals seem physically exhausted even when they aren't doing much. The tiredness is not in the bones, it's in the mind, worn out from decades of clutching too tightly. Ironically, the more life asks for surrender, the more many people double down on control. They begin to micromanage others, criticize younger generations, or resist any suggestion of help. Independence, which once was a strength, becomes an armor that isolates them. They push others away in the name of self-reliance, but wonder why loneliness sets in. They refuse to adapt, claiming wisdom, but forget that wisdom without openness becomes arrogance. The body, too, responds to this internal rigidity. Chronic tension builds in the shoulders, jaw, and gut. Sleep becomes shallow. Digestion slows. The immune system weakens. Everything stiffens: joints, muscles, arteries, attitudes. And it's not merely biological, it's energetic. What you resist persists. What you grip stiffens. What you fear controls you. Many older people suffer not from age itself, but from the emotional cost of trying to keep life from changing. They confuse surrender with defeat. They think letting go means giving up. But the truth is, letting go is an act of deep inner strength. It's a sign that you trust life more than you trust your ego. This attachment to control also prevents healing. To heal, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you must release the need to know how it will happen. Healing is not logical. It's not a task to be completed. It is a surrender into uncertainty. But if your mind demands predictable outcomes, you block the very mysteries that could restore your vitality. The miracle you seek cannot enter a room that's locked by your fear of not being in charge. Children leave with wonder because they aren't trying to control everything. They play, they explore, they fall and get up. This flexibility of spirit is what keeps them alive with energy. But somewhere along the way, we trade curiosity for certainty. We choose safety over expansion. We stop asking questions and start giving instructions. And with each passing year, our world shrinks. When the elder forgets how to be a student, they begin to decay, not just physically, but spiritually. If they cannot let the younger ones lead, cannot accept that their way may no longer be the only way, they become bitter. And bitterness is a slow poison. It eats from the inside, unseen, unspoken, but deeply felt. The path forward is not in controlling more, but in holding less. Like water, life flows where it is welcomed, not where it is forced. The great paradox is that true power lies not in control, but in calm. In the ability to observe without needing to interfere. In the capacity to trust without having guarantees. in the quiet choice to surrender, not because you're weak, but because you finally understand that peace is more valuable than pride. In the end, control is heavy, and as we grow older, what weighs us down most is not the years, but the things we refuse to release. The moment you loosen your grip, you'll feel it. The breath becomes deeper, the mind becomes quieter, and life, no longer resisted, begins to nourish you once again. The human body remembers what the mind tries to forget. Emotions are not fleeting sensations that disappear once ignored. They are energies, and energy does not vanish. It transforms, settles, or stagnates. Throughout life, people encounter grief, betrayal, disappointment, rejection, shame, and regret. But most are not taught how to process these experiences. Instead, they are told to be strong, move on, or don't talk about it. So what happens? These emotions are buried, not healed, suppressed, not resolved, and like unburned fuel, they accumulate quietly, becoming emotional toxins stored deep within. Many older individuals carry decades of unresolved emotional weight in their bodies. The sorrow of losing a parent they never mourned properly. The pain of a broken relationship they never forgave. The guilt from mistakes they never made peace with. These memories do not simply fade, they press themselves into the tissues, organs, breath, and posture. The weight is invisible, but the effects are undeniable. Chronic illness, fatigue, anxiety, bitterness, and depression often trace their roots to emotions left unexpressed. The heart doesn't forget. The liver, associated in many traditions with anger, holds on tightly when rage has no voice. The lungs constrict under the pressure of grief uncried. Even the skin, the body's boundary, can manifest pain when boundaries have been violated or neglected. And as time moves on, these emotional blockages become more deeply embedded, not because the body wants to suffer, but because it's waiting for you to acknowledge what you've been running from. There is a reason why people sometimes break down over something seemingly small. A comment, a song, a scent. It's never about that moment alone. It's the 1,000 unspoken moments before it. Emotional energy is like water held behind a dam. If it's not released with care, it will find a crack and burst through with force, often at the worst time. This is why older age can become more emotionally volatile, not because one is weaker, but because the container has become full. Silence does not always equal peace. Many elders sit in silence, but inside their minds are storms they never calmed. They've been silent for too long about their pain, about their loneliness, about their regrets. They have smiled through holidays while carrying old wounds. They've given advice while never healing their own scars. And while the world applauds stoicism, the body punishes emotional neglect. Healing begins with acknowledgement. You cannot release what you refuse to recognize. Naming the hurt does not make you weak. It makes you free. When you sit quietly and let an old emotion rise without judgment, you give it permission to move, and movement is life. Every tear shed consciously, every breath released with intention, every memory observed without clinging, these are acts of purification. There is a simple truth: what you do not heal, you pass on. If you do not clear your emotional toxins, they bleed into your relationships, your decisions, your energy, and even your legacy. Children grow up in the shadow of their parents' unresolved pain. Communities echo the traumas of generations before them. And so, to cleanse yourself is not selfish, it is sacred. It's not always about speaking to others. Some wounds need no audience. They only need your presence. Sit with your own heart. Write what you never said. Walk in nature and let the silence speak to you. The wind knows how to carry grief. The earth knows how to absorb pain. The sky does not judge the clouds for crying. Forgiveness is another form of release, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Holding on to hatred does not punish the other, it poisons you. Each time you remember what they did and feel the pain again, your body believes it is happening now. This loop is exhausting. It drains your life force drop by drop, and over the years it shortens your breath, tightens your chest, and burdens your heart. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it's freeing yourself from the prison of repetition. Even joy, when unexpressed, becomes stagnant. People are afraid to feel too deeply, even when it's good. They suppress laughter because they fear judgment. They hide gratitude because they think it makes them vulnerable. But joy is a cleanser. Laughter is medicine. Gratitude is detoxification. When you express these openly, they push out what's heavy. They make space for lightness. The journey of aging should be one of lightening, not of carrying more, but most people do the opposite. They drag their unhealed stories into old age, wondering why their steps grow heavier and their spirits dim. It is not time that makes one tired. It is the burden of all that was never released. Let your emotions move. Let them speak. Let them rise and fall without resistance. The older you become, the more sacred your inner space becomes. Clean it often, breathe through it gently, and remember emotions are visitors. They are not meant to stay. They come to teach, to reveal, and to leave, but only if you let them. The body is a reflection of nature, born to move, built to adapt, and designed to flow. Just as rivers are meant to run, wind is meant to blow, and fire is meant to flicker, the human body is meant to stay in motion. Movement is not only a function of survival, it is a language of vitality. When movement ceases, stagnation takes root. And where stagnation lives, decay begins. Many people view movement as something physical exercise, walking, working. But movement is more than muscle and bone in action. It is breath circulating freely, blood flowing unimpeded, thoughts shifting with clarity, emotions rising and releasing. Movement is life itself, and yet, as people age, they begin to move less. Often, this is not due to inability, but due to habit, fear, or resignation. It starts subtly. The body tightens a little in the morning, so the stretching stops. Knees ache during a walk, so walks become shorter, then infrequent. A fall once happened, so now even stepping outside seems risky. Little by little, motion is replaced by stillness, not the stillness of peace, but of hesitation, of retreat, of disengagement. The body, once active and curious, becomes sedentary. The joints stiffen, the spine compresses, the lungs shrink. And so does the spirit. Stagnation is not simply physical, it is energetic. A body that stops moving becomes a vessel of stuck energy. Tension that once could have been shaken off now settles into the shoulders. Anger that once could have been walked out now festers in the gut. Anxiety that once dissolved with breath now lingers in the chest. The body, deprived of its rhythm, becomes a container for unresolved emotions and spiritual fatigue. What people often forget is that the body is not an isolated system. It is interconnected with the mind and soul. When the body no longer expresses itself through movement, the mind begins to dull. Memory fades, focus weakens, creativity withers. It's not just age, it's disuse. The mind, like the body, depends on circulation, and when a person stops moving through the world with curiosity and engagement, both the body and mind suffer. Movement also carries meaning. Every step taken with awareness is a message to the body. I am still alive. Every stretch is an act of respect for the vessel that carries you. Every breath drawn deeply, every arm raised, every moment of balance held even for a second reminds the body that it is still being used, still needed, still honored. When the body is neglected, it forgets its strength. But when it is moved, it remembers. Age is not the enemy of movement. The absence of movement is the real thief. There are elders who walk with a steady grace well into their 90s, not because they are lucky, but because they never stopped moving. Their pace may slow, but their commitment to motion remains. They treat movement as daily nourishment, like food or water. To them, movement is not an activity, it is a way of life. On the other hand, there are those who begin to surrender their mobility far too early. They confuse comfort with care. They believe that resting more means preserving themselves, but prolonged rest without purpose leads to erosion. Muscles atrophy, bones lose density, and more dangerously, willpower fades. What began as physical stillness transforms into emotional apathy and spiritual disconnection. It's not about running marathons or lifting heavy weights. It's about staying engaged, rising with intention, moving with grace, taking ownership of the body, even in small ways, a gentle walk in the morning sun, rotating the joints with breath, reaching up, bending down, not out of obligation, but out of reverence for the miracle of being able to. The body craves rhythm, it craves challenge. Even mild discomfort from mindful movement sends signals of vitality through the system. The heart beats a little faster, the lungs expand, hormones shift, and most importantly, the mind clears. Movement cleanses what stillness stagnates. When people stop moving, they often say, "I don't have the energy." But the truth is, energy comes from movement. Motion creates momentum. Just as a fire needs kindling, the body needs motion to stay alight. Even in pain, movement is possible. Even with limitation, some form of expression is available. The key is to honor where the body is without abandoning it. The real danger of aging is not in the years. It is in the gradual withdrawal from participation in life. When movement ceases, not only does the body decline, but the soul begins to forget its song. Life starts to feel smaller, tighter, heavier. And this shrinking of experience signals to the body, the journey is ending, but it doesn't have to. The body listens, it responds, with each deliberate step, each stretch of the spine, each breath that fills the lungs fully. The message becomes clear: I am here, I choose to live. Movement is not a task, it is a declaration, and in that declaration, life continues to flow. The body may grow old, but it is the fading of purpose that causes a person to wither before their time. Purpose is the silent engine behind vitality. It's the invisible force that pulls you out of bed, steadies your hands, brightens your eyes, and fills your days with meaning. Without it, even the strongest body begins to feel heavy. Even the healthiest mind loses direction. The soul, unanchored by purpose, begins to drift. In youth, purpose often arrives easily. There are careers to chase, families to raise, goals to conquer. Each morning feels like a step towards something greater. But as the years unfold, and the roles that once defined a person begin to fade, many find themselves asking a quiet question they're afraid to speak aloud. What am I here for now? That question becomes louder with age. Retirement comes, children leave, the accolades slow, and the world, which once needed your hands, now looks past you. You're no longer the center of plans, the solution to someone's problem, or the name they call when something must be done. And if your identity was rooted solely in what you did, then you'll feel like you're no longer needed when you're no longer doing. But the truth is, purpose doesn't retire, it evolves. Many older people struggle not because their bodies have failed them, but because they no longer feel useful. They wake up, but not to something. They move, but without direction. They survive, but they no longer feel alive. Purpose was never meant to be confined to work or status. It's deeper than titles and responsibilities. It is the quiet commitment to serve, to learn, to grow, and to give even when no one is watching. When purpose fades, the will to live quietly erodes with it, not in an obvious way, but slowly, through apathy, through disinterest, through days that feel empty even when filled. The sparkle in the eyes dims, the posture collapses, the voice weakens, not because the person is dying, but because they've stopped reaching forward. Life demands direction. Without it, energy dissipates. Just like a river that loses its channel becomes a swamp. A life without aim becomes stagnant. The muscles weaken not only from lack of movement, but from the absence of desire to go anywhere. The breath shortens not just from age, but from the lack of awe. And the mind dims, not from memory loss alone, but from the absence of meaningful thought. But those who continue to live with purpose, even a small one, remain vibrant far beyond what the body suggests. You see it in the grandmother who tends her garden with reverence, in the grandfather who mentors young minds with patience, in the elder who prays with intensity, who creates with passion, who shows up each day with a reason to be. Purpose doesn't need to be loud, it doesn't need applause, it just needs to be real. It can be the intention to love deeply, to forgive someone who hurt you, to share your story so others don't repeat your pain, to hold the door for someone with kindness, to learn something new even at 70. These are not small acts, they are sacred. There is a reason people who volunteer, who teach, who mentor, who create live longer, fuller lives. Their hearts are still invested. Their minds are still sharp. Their bodies, though aging, still receive the command, "You are needed." And the body listens. Purpose also fuels resilience. Pain feels different when you have a reason to bear it. Illness becomes a challenge to overcome, not a sentence to surrender to. Purpose strengthens the spirit, and the spirit sustains the body. The people who endure the longest are rarely the strongest physically. They are simply the most committed internally. But purpose cannot be imposed from the outside. It must be discovered from within. It may be buried under years of noise, loss, or disappointment. But it's there. Sometimes it whispers through the things that bring stillness to the heart. A memory that won't let go. A dream that still stirs. A lesson you were born to teach. A story you haven't yet told. That's where purpose waits. The tragedy is not in dying. The real tragedy is in dying while still alive. Sitting in a chair day after day, waiting for time to pass, waiting for someone to visit, waiting for life to end. This is not living. This is existing without purpose. But it's never too late to reignite that fire. It starts with one question. What am I still here to do? Not in the world's eyes, but in your own. What will bring you peace or healing or joy? What gift can you still give? Who can still be blessed by your presence? Purpose gives the breath meaning. It gives age dignity. It transforms decline into depth. And it reminds us that no matter how many years we have walked, there is still a reason to keep walking, one step at a time with heart.